there's only learning and elevation through pain and suffering. You have to go all the way to the bottom, go through all the levels of suffering, and find yourself with your own will and strength to alchemize through that process to rise up again in a new form. At the end of the day, a lot of the magic where you can dissipate hate, pain, suffering comes from the energy of compassion. The energy of compassion is so deeply healing and profound that it was on that very day I realized when you use compassion, you heal generations of pain. The spark of awakening happens to this individual when they could even so much as verbalize, I actually don't want to do XYZ job. I've been put in that trajectory because it is not even my wish, it's someone else's wish. I'm simply, if they could verbalize this, if they could solidify this knowledge, that means they have been awakened. If I could give an example, you know the movie The Matrix, there is a blue pill or the red pill. If a person feels very comfortable, or maybe just not uncomfortable enough to jump out of the matrix, they will still take the blue pill and go back. But some individuals, maybe they felt more compelled to go for the red pill, even though the path ahead might be tough. Yeah, in fact, some people, they very, very would love to just go back into the matrix and stay there. Ascension is very deliberately leveling up with knowledge of the oneself's own capabilities.
Right.
At that point, I would say Ascension even includes, for a lot of people, how they want to provide service to the community. Very often it comes from that place.
Welcome to The Big Why, a podcast about life's biggest questions. As we experience more material abundance, we face deeper spiritual hunger. And the gap between what we have and what we truly need leads us back to the big questions of life. Where do we come from? Why are we here? And where are we going? As of today, no one has found the answer. I believe that each human being is part of the truth. It's like a puzzle that wants to come together, yet there are always some pieces missing. This podcast is striving to put part of this puzzle together. I'm Anne-Kristin Vaudour. I grew up in East Germany and I have lived in China, Italy and Hong Kong. Now I call Singapore my home. Living across cultures has shaped my lens of life and work. In each episode of this podcast, I'm speaking to people from different walks of life, to artists, coaches, modern mystics, academics, scientists, mothers, migrants, and many more. I talk to them about their work, about their values, beliefs, and what gives them meaning. And it's not only about the answers, it's also about the search. Enjoy the episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of The Big Why, a podcast where we talk about the biggest questions. Where do we come from? Why are we here? And where are we going? And I'm very excited to welcome Lydia Neo-Muller today. And Lydia, you are an Hermetic alchemist and also a soul alignment coach. You are helping people that are going through their phase of awakening and ascension, and you do that with tools like intuitive tarot reading, Akashic record reading, and also epigenetic alchemy and quantum magic and rituals. It's an amazing job description. It's not something that you find on Job Street or any kind of job portal. So I'm very curious to find out, first of all, what brought you on that path, and also for our listeners, what do you do practically?
Thank you, Anne, for the description and introduction. I'm very happy to be here. Thanks for having me here today. I find myself coming into this, actually, ironically, I am stepping into a space where a lot of whatever you mentioned, the Hermetic Alchemist, soul alignment coach, and then all that stuff that came after, it really is more to provide the anybody who's asking, what do you do? What is this all about? So I find myself having to patch in these things that can at least help people understand what I'm doing. But if I were to have it my way, I actually feel that these are all labels. If I can and just exist and just be deeply purposeful in what I do, yeah, I would of course not want to have any labels. In fact, you might have known that formally when I began my path and become more outward in my expression of my work, I even started off with the label witch, but then along the way I realized, oh, that's really very limiting, or at least to some extent to some groups, so and I dropped it. So what brought me on this was having gone through in my 40 over years of life, I would say at least the first 3/4 of it, up to early 30s, mid 30s, I actually felt like I was in an entirely separate chapter of my life, going through all the lessons and I would say being tested, being put through the different degrees of learning that I have to as a human being in this lifetime so that I can come to what I am today.
What kind of tests were that? Because like I'm really curious to find out, finding this kind of path that you found. It's not easy. I mean, that's not something that opens up to many people. So kind of how did you feel like that was your calling?
Exactly. So I was just gonna say, you're right. It takes faith to go towards that calling. And I felt this calling increasingly louder and louder. So answering the first question you have was what kind of tests. I call them tests. It's the way I grew up. It's the surrounding that I was in, the kind of people that I met, very particular few characters in my life. Some are still in my life, such as my parents, and then of course ex-partners, ex-friends, quite a few of them. They all played a part in teaching me the lessons that I needed to learn and the different kind of emotions and challenges that I need to transmute from so that I can go towards the path of transcending beyond the basic level of being human and basically most humans, all humans come here with the ability to transform themselves, with the ability to transmute. But before all that happens, there's only learning and elevation through pain and suffering.
So you went through the abyss, basically.
Exactly.
And that's how you transformed.
You have to go all the way to the bottom, go through all the levels of suffering, and find yourself with your own will and strength to alchemize through that process to rise up again in a new form. And that's why it brought me to what I am today. And that also was my own process of alchemy in my own life, which is why as I come closer and closer to the crystallization of me stepping into that power that I truly have, I find myself being the alchemist of my own life and being able to help others. So I would say that happened towards the past 35, 36 years old. At that point, it was like that was coming to the very end of that tribulation journey of my life. Yeah.
And I mean, it's like, I find there's a lot of courage to that. Because, I don't know, I could imagine that your environment wasn't the kind of environment that said, oh, you become an alchemist. Great, you know? So I think you have been facing a lot of challenges and adversity that you kind of, it must have felt like a bit like a coming out or something like that, right? So, I mean, this podcast is about meaning and purpose. And what made you feel like, okay, there is so much meaning in that I'm just going through with that. I'm calling myself witch alchemist, and I'm just going for it. Was this like like a gradual thing, or was there like one experience that told you, whatever, I don't care what everybody's thinking about me, what people are talking about me, I just want to do that?
Okay. So if I were to look at the version of myself when I was young, rebellious, naive, ignorant, everything, still learning, right, and clawing through the life and its pains, if I insist on having things my way back then, it might really be a form of ego manifesting itself, and perhaps even back then I would not have made the choice of coming out and boldly taking a role like this, because that's exactly why I said as I step into my power, which is only past that entire tribulation phase, the thoughts, the essence of my soul calling, the truth, the yearning to properly, purposefully be doing this work only became loud and clear, such that I know it's the truth, such that I know that it is my soul's essence saying these. And it's not just me going through different phases of my shadow manifesting through into ego. So, if I were younger, that might come out in a different way. But as I go through all the, like I said, transmutation is required. Only when you transmute, then can you truly embody that true version of you, right? And so today, I know I made this choice, and I do know why I do it.
So it's like letting go of the ego, basically, like that helped you to kind of really step into that role and saying, okay, that's me, and no matter what.
Exactly. And it's not done out of vanity. It's not done out of performative, there's this term that I get it these days. A lot of people say what this so and so person is doing, you can tell it's very performative, like it's just a show, it's to brandish in a certain way. So I come into this without those, and of course very clearly visualizing what I'm doing is meant to serve and to be purposeful in a serving. I have had individuals come up to me through word of mouth and say, hey, I heard that you cast spells. Can you cast certain XYZ type of spells for me? And from the word of it, I could tell that it's veering in the unethical direction. It's veering in the highly self-serving and ego-serving direction. On top of that, more likely than not, one would have to work with lower vibrational entities and forces to exercise that spell. I have a knowledge of how it can be done, but it doesn't mean that I will do it.
So there is actually, what would happen to you if you, I don't know, shall we call it like white and black magic?
That's the terminology, right, that's commonly being used, but I won't even call it white or black magic.
Right.
I will call it service to all or service to self actions and intentions. Yeah. With everything we do, let's not even talk about rituals, magics, or spells. In everything we do, right, in our daily life, I think we can always ask ourselves, is this action I'm going to take service to all or service to self?
Okay.
Right. In our family setting, amongst our social life and our peers, I think it's not wrong to sometimes have service to self. And I'm not saying that we should all be so altruistic and only be serving all and others. But I think this conversation of constantly knowing truthfully and awareness of which service direction you're going is what puts us in that state of consciousness. At least the opening of it.
And why is that so important to actually, observe the intention whenever it occurs to you and wants you to help them with something?
Okay, so this is our soul is a deeply, highly energetic form of our expression. When your soul, from its pure state, intend on something that is your will, an energetic output happens because there is so much energy coming from your soul. the action can only happen if your body follows through with the intention, right? But it all starts from the intention part. So that's why if we are now talking about soul work, if we are now talking about a person wanting a better life, wanting a deeper, more meaningful, purposeful life, at least in this lifetime, right? Then the next thing to think about is, what are you doing with your soul? What is your soul going through in all its intentions, in all its actions?
Right.
Is very disciplined, to be honest, if you were to think about it. But if a person is willing to go into that space of discipline, like I said, to always understand consciously if you're doing anything or making any intention, service to all or service to self, it becomes habit, and it becomes your true person, that you will operate this way.
Right.
This translates into the depth of your own personal evolution, soul evolution.
Yeah.
All the other, like life has its own way of peppering our different phase and milestones of our lives with different kind of learnings, and they can be chaotic, can be challenging, right? Like I mentioned, it was like tribulations for me. So how to course through this life, even though we have to learn all these difficult times, how to course through it with tenacity, how to course through it with depth, and learning in a way that you only become more elevated as you learn, instead of becoming crushed and just crushed underneath the suffering.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's actually what the podcast is about. And actually, Lydia is one of the few people that we can actually talk, I mean, where we can get information about those two questions, like where do we come from and where do we go, right? But then you just talk about this soul work. I think in order to put that into perspective, can you maybe explain to us why is that so important to do that work?
Okay. So, and I'm speaking from the space of, because I think the audience and many would ask, oh, how is it that she knows all this?
Exactly, yeah.
So I speak from the space of my own Gnostic experience, my own gnosis. Since young, I have had a lot of moments where I communicate with spirit. When I'm young, I might not know that was spirit. I might just think that it was another version of me speaking more wisely, so it might even have been my higher self. But as I got older and older, I can very, very much identify that source slash God slash universe, whatever anyone wants to call it, spoke to me. And there were many times I could feel the energy is one of a very high and pure entity. And I can also sense and feel times when the conversation that happens internally comes from a low entity, low vibrational entity, meaning the shadow aspect of a person, or perhaps the more demonic energies that wants to tempt or lure. Both sides have reached out to me. So anyway, I went through a lot of that when I was young. And as I go through more and more of it, in my own way, I have come to identify and the knowledge of whatever I do have today are all accumulative of all these years, right? So back to that question, I know that we all have a soul, and the soul is simply for this period of what our perceived time is, living a life. Because we perceive. As humans, we have that dimension whereby we perceive in a very material way. And so we are living this life, which only is a blink of an eye, is a real small snippet of a chapter for the soul in its entirety of existence. Because the soul, which actually is not separated, it's more rather every soul comes from one collective consciousness. We all come from one source, which is the source I've been talking about, the one collective consciousness. Consciousness, if I were to help everybody visualize, it is like consciousness is that ocean. And because the ocean desires to accumulate, to learn, to experience in the myriad of potential possibilities of what reality and life could be, then the ocean separates itself temporarily into droplets. Okay? Imagine if that one droplet is extracted from the ocean, it is still the same water from the ocean.
Yeah.
It is part of the ocean.
Yeah.
Although temporarily separated, and let's say we extract that one droplet and we put it in a bottle, and we kept the bottle up, however long that droplet stays in that bottle, it is separate. And it is under the illusion that it is separate.
Okay.
But it doesn't know. It doesn't know that it came from the ocean, it's part of the ocean. It tastes just like the ocean.
So each of us is one of those droplets.
Yeah, I'm just giving a visual. Yeah.
Okay.
Imagine all of us are just like droplets put into a bottle.
Okay.
And then maybe the bottle stands there with the droplet in there for maybe 80 to 100 years. That's like a human life.
Okay.
And then one day, the bottle breaks and the droplet gets returned to the ocean.
Okay. And the bottle, can I understand it like that are like all the droplets that you're currently with in that lifetime, right?
Yes. So imagine once you return that one droplet into the ocean,
Yeah.
the droplet merges back with the ocean.
Yeah.
It's no longer separate.
Okay.
It's no longer actually singularly identifiable from the external perspective, even though that droplet did carry with itself whatever experience and memory it had when it was in a bottle.
Right. So how did you find out about all these things? I mean, I think not many of our listeners are so deep into that material. So how did you, get to know about all these things?
Through my own conversations with Source and Divine. I do meditate. When I meditate, and I often just let whatever comes come. So a lot of things actually happened in, okay, so my astral experience and my meditative journeys often brings me to places and brings me thoughts and understanding of that level and that realm.
So what is it that you do? Astral travel, right? So how does that work?
Okay, simply put, everybody astral travels, actually. Everybody astral travels when your body is in the state of sleep. So the most easy and most common thing that occurs for everyone is that when you go to sleep, and you're at that in-between phase whereby your brain is still alert or awake to some extent, you're not in absolute deep sleep yet, most people can then lift on into the astral world.
So that's a state of consciousness, right?
Yes.
Okay.
However, most people, if you were to do it like this, most people will call that dreaming, and it is not a controlled method. It's not done with control. Your consciousness does not have the choice to choose where to go to, who to dream of, the scenario, the storyline, whatever. It just happens. And how is it that it just happens? Because your consciousness in the back of your subconscious has like this, I call it the junkyard. It's like a storage space where everything that did not get processed, get stored into the subconscious junkyard, like a storeroom. And you don't even get to choose because it's so subconscious. You don't really remember every little snippet of it that you can. It's like, think of
All the experiences that we have that we don't consciously
exactly
all the time. Okay.
And a lot of times it might even be, it can be a mix of everything. It can be good things, bad things, such as trauma, things that you deem to be unhappy things or anything of that you try to suppress. Exactly. Which is why very, very easily it does not get its fair share of attention from you and it just becomes part of your subconscious, right? Which then, when you're resting and sleeping, now this is where the more spiritual aspect comes in. Your soul is deeply aligned with the fact that you have a blueprint and you have a journey to walk through in this lifetime.
Where does that come from?
that we're going down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think it's like Lydia is just so deep into that. But even for me, it's very hard to grasp. That's why I'm trying to make it understandable for the audience.
Okay. So our soul, again, back to that story about the ocean, right? So imagine our soul is everlasting, our soul is ever existing. There's no end to it. So the only thing that does end, which is also our perception of what ending means, is human death, right? To us, this is what ending looks like. You die. But who's to say that when you die here, it is not a form of liberation for your soul to then return to where it's from? It actually is more like homecoming for your soul.
So the body dies and then the soul
Gets returned.
to the ocean.
Yeah, back to the consciousness and the source collective. Okay, so then if I could help you visualize to this extent, that means for every round your soul comes back and live a new life, there is a reason and purpose to why it's doing that. It's because it is learning something. It is trying to process something. There's something that it did not complete in the previous round or previous few rounds, in fact. For a lot of people, it's like that. One lesson could take maybe 4 or 5 lifetimes to learn.
Right.
Because every soul has in every different lifetime and cycle could accumulate different energetic frequencies that veers a little bit off to one end. Right? Because of the human experience, because of the free will that we exercise, we can choose actions, we make intentions, which could veer our energetic field off to one end. So we are therefore not as balanced as any original soul would be.
Right. So, like, in practical terms, let's say I have something reoccurring. What could it be? Maybe I'm carrying a lot of anger, which comes out uncontrolled, and I simply don't find a way of controlling that anger. So how does this manifest during the different lifetimes, and what can we do to kind of how to say, accelerate our journey?
Yes, as you mentioned some keywords here. Some people will say, "Oh, I believe in the Buddhist teachings," and then they will say, "Okay, they talk about karma, dharma, and things like that, and samsara and nirvana, all those, the words that one would learn if you go through the Buddhist teachings." And then many other cultures will have their own version of rebirth and renewal and things like that. At the end of the day, as old as humankind have been around in every culture, there's definitely been a lot of individuals who went through their own experience and understand the depths of how our soul begin and why it's here to do what it's doing. Just like I myself go through, and then we all in our own way try and make sense of it or try to pass that teaching on,
Right.
whether it's through drawings or text or whatever, right?
Right.
Okay, so in that sense, again, back to what we formerly was talking about, is that when the soul comes through every life, like you mentioned, if there is one lifetime where the big problem with that soul is that it's trying so hard to learn how to manage emotions, particularly in the area of wrath and anger. Perhaps in one particular lifetime, the biggest thing that the soul is supposed to do as a person born with very much anger is to eventually know what is the counter effect and the counter energy to the anger. And I mean, don't want to sound cheesy or corny, more often than not, actually, the answer to most low vibrational issues is actually the highest form of vibration solution, which is love and compassion.
Okay. So, like, first we need to get aware of it, right?
Yes, sure. In that lifetime,
Yeah.
perhaps there was a story written for that soul in every lifetime, is that the soul would write a story for itself, meet certain characters, which is the term soul contract. That's how it came about. Meet a few different characters that would instigate, catalyze, or push that person in that lifetime to manifest that anger. It could be the environment the person is born in, and then subsequently the people the person meets. And then perhaps the storyline or the scenario could be like the person falls in love, somebody betrays that person, then the person's anger like it's so big that the person commits murder. Could be things like that, or like, you know. So if that soul went through literally that story, and that was like the biggest pain and challenge, and that person finishes off that life the natural way at his deathbed, not knowing how else to be better.
Right.
No awareness, no deep learning whatsoever, only carrying lots of hate and anger right till the very last breath.
Right.
Then the body dies. Then the soul returns to source. When the soul returns to source, there is really a processing period.
Source is the water?
Yeah.
Okay.
Source is the overall consciousness. Yeah. So the soul returns to divine source, and there is a processing time. The soul will go through its own energetic processing of and the memories. There really isn't a visual I can put to it if we were to, you know, there's no material behind this. It is all in energetic form. So the person will process the memories and the story of whatever happened, whatever it did learn, it did not learn. Everything goes and return into the consciousness that forms part of like collecting the story. Once it's all done, there also is a period of understanding what needs to be done next.
Right.
Which is, do I stay on together with Source and not reincarnate? Or do I feel like I definitely have more to learn? I've not done well enough in the previous
You
life.
can actually decide if you stay with the source or if you have another route, basically.
Yes and no. A compulsion will happen due to the fact that the overall energetic resonance of consciousness is a very altruistic resonance. So deeply, even if there's no look, everybody will be lazy and refusing to go back to live a human life if they all have their choice. More often than not, it's a compulsion of wanting. That's why the karma and samsara happens in the Buddhism sense. Samsara happens because the soul actually does come back round after round after round in a compelled fashion.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean that's hard to imagine because actually we cling to life, right? So while we are living, we actually cling to life.
It's actually very ironic.
Yeah.
Based on the logic of samsara. When we are living this human life, we are clinging to life because our bodily senses requires oxygen. The state of survival is constantly there. We can't even force ourselves to not breathe. Even if I say hold your breath now, you will eventually have to gasp for air. So it is built in. It's like something we cannot hack or uncode, right? And in fact, many due to this aspect would then fear dying, because the fear of dying is like you're clawing for your last breath. But the soul, in its most liberated and original state, which is energetic and light,
Okay.
actually, that's not really always what to come back and be a human, if given that choice. Because being human means that there is a lot of extreme pain, suffering, and dense energies that you have to put through.
Yeah.
Imagine if you can be a light, bright, happy, blissful being, why would you want to come back here and suffer as a human? If I can, it's almost like you're worming your life through if you have to come back as a human.
Right.
Not everybody gets to live that comfy life.
But life is suffering for life is so life, and suffering is part of life. And but as I understand, that's also what gives life its meaning, right?
Exactly. If a soul chooses not to come back to be a human and live life and learn lessons through life, The soul, answering your question just now, do we have a choice to not come back? Yes, there are much older, much more ascended souls that can make the choice to not come back. But then they also can make the choice to be someone else's guardian spirit, someone else's master in the spiritual world. Those are much older and much more ascended souls. Souls like gurus, like Buddha himself is ascended. And basically, it's not a free pass to say, I'm not coming back to be a human anymore. You actually have to go through enough human lifetimes to attain that level of ascension for your soul, to have a choice to not be compelled back here. Because why? No one is compelling you. It's not like there is an upper management that says you have. But actually the compulsion happens through an energetic form of, it's an energetic form of compulsion. When a soul knows that it is underlearned, the compulsion of the energy is that it will automatically take another life the next round. And it would have to learn what it did not learn the last round.
Okay, yeah. As you learn that, I mean, for many, you might kind of connect it to Buddhism or Jainism or any of those religions, but you are actually learning these things through your astral travels, right?
A lot. I learned it through my meditation. When I have communication with spirit, they showed me images, they showed me literally just speaking to me, and I'm downloading and channeling. This is still a very strange effect that I can say till today. I find it strange. Claircognitive functions is one of my key psychic functions.
What does it mean, claircognitive?
It is, so we are all psychic in one way or another. It's just how much we practice and cultivate ourselves to be honed into that skill. So one of the things that I've been training, soft training myself since young, is actually the claircognitive function that happened to be one of my main skills, because I already partake in so much inner conversation with myself and spirit since young. A lot of my understanding of the spiritual world and the all forms of esoteric subjects comes through my dreams. And then when I wake up from these dreams, it's almost instantaneous that it occurred to me these dreams are not just dreams. These dreams are travel journeys to particular realm.
How do you feel that was not just a dream, that was actually, like a travel tool?
That's what I mean by the claircognitive function. Like any normal child, I would question myself, like, what was that dream all about? But the next thing I know is I'm hearing and I'm sensing the message, which back then I don't know from who, but now I know from source. It's like, what you're seeing was a past life. What you're seeing is a future life. What you're seeing is a alternate reality. What you're seeing is your soul in another life. Like literally, I would get those acknowledgements
As a clear message.
Yes.
So the source is talking to you directly.
Yeah. The source divine does not leave me wondering for too long.
Right.
Yeah, I would wonder. I truly would. Like I have a high degree of doubt for what I saw. Was it ever something I truly need to know? I always do that because I have a very rich dream part of my life. Like as though when people sleep and they say they go dreaming, is really sleep and rest for them. But for me, I felt like it was work.
Okay, so you work in your sleep.
Back then I did, but now I actually managed it a lot better. Back then I traveled so far that I could hardly return, and I feel so exhausted when I'm finally back. And I have no idea why. But now I actually do it a lot better because I know what it's all about. Yeah. But anyways, like I said, I would always in the daytime when I'm like conscious doing operating, I would always ask myself, oh, that thing I saw in my dream, that thing I saw in my meditation, I guess it's random. Like I always tell myself to not put too much stock in it, because I don't want to. I'm actually a person who has a lot of logic and practicality to the extent I felt like, okay, let's not be so woo-woo. Let's not go too deep into like, this could be a sign. I always try to tell myself to be like level-headed about it. And then I would receive messages. The next thing I know is, don't doubt this, it's true. That this is your past life. If you're wondering, this is your past life. And I'm like, okay.
So do you experience like synchronicities or something in that regard that tells you, okay, what I just experienced, that was, a past life or a future?
Definitely. A lot of synchronicities. I've learned also that through the years how to read synchronicities to know that something is a sign or not a sign.
Okay, can you tell us an example, maybe something that happened to you where you were like, sure, okay, that's a message from the source?
Okay, so this is my earliest days I can recall of really paying attention to synchronicities. During the time when I was around 34, 35 years old, I was in Australia. That was my past marriage and past relationship. I was going through a lot. That was probably the pinnacle of me being cooked in that crucible at that point. Is really, I was truly in the fire. I would constantly see 444.
Oh, okay.
And really, I'm like, why? I don't even know. And I really, back then, did not care about these things.
So how do you see it? Like 4 o'clock, 44 hours, like
4 o'clock 44, car plate number is 444, things like that, which is super weird and random. And I even recall myself murmuring, why am I seeing 444? Because, actually it's very strange for Chinese.
Yeah.
Because we have that whole thing about, 4 is an unlucky number because it sounds like death.
Yeah.
So I was in that space of deep denial at that age because I was going through something, right, regarding my ex relationship. In such deep denial that I refuse to believe that spirit is reaching out to me. And I just see the numbers repeating itself as coincidence. I really was just giving it no meaning, no credit whatsoever. And just like, the universe is so weird, giving me 444 every time. What a coincidence. Maybe it just made me feel like, oh, am I lucky? Doing 444. But as I headed deeper and deeper in my own problems at that point, to a phase where I came quite close to ending my life. At 36, I think it was end of 35, early 36. I was really trying to end my life. And at that phase, the 444 kept showing up almost every day. And I was really getting the weird, like at that point, like, I don't know what this means, that whoever that is, whatever that is following me around. Whoever or whatever that is giving me the 444 is following me around.
Okay, and did that help you to kind of, continue with your life here? Or, I mean, what did it do to you, this synchronicity or the knowledge that you get this as a message that's actually like a sign?
So right till the very one final day when I was almost concluding the method of how I shall exit this world, I heard a very loud, clear voice in my head that said, no, this is not how it ends. You do not stop here. You just have to step through a portal and everything will be different. Because I heard that voice so loud and clear, first of all, I could not deny it came from a higher source.
Right.
I swear, like, I have I have so many years of hearing spirit talk to me, but sometimes I can even say, maybe that was nothing. But on that particular day, it was so loud and clear. I could not ignore it. I could not put it aside. And that actually was the reason why I, of course, I'm still here today.
Yeah, but it's very powerful.
It is very powerful. So it totally turned my life around after that, hearing that statement. And then I am totally cutting off that old chapter, and in many ways it's a quantum jump. I quantum jump or shift into another timeline where I walked into the actual portal I'm meant to.
That's so interesting. So was this the moment where you kind of, was that like the turning point in your life? That where you decided, okay, that's a sign, I go and I want to help other people to to manage,
The wanting to help other people actually became more obvious and pronounced after I heal myself. I can't possibly just step right across and be like a master. I have to heal. I cannot help others until I am healed. And even my own healing journey took a few years. And as I heal and I become more and more healed, and of course as a transmutation part of it, then only when I'm nearing the transcending part, then I can say, yes, I am ready to help others.
So how did you heal? I mean, what helped you to heal?
Oh, this is, again, this is difficult to, for many different people, it will be very different. But personally, in my case and scenario, the pain and the suffering that I went through, rightfully when everything ended, I brought with me, I should, in most people's perspective, I should bring with me a lot of hate and a lot of anger. Because it was betrayal from some parties, and it was also a lot of physical pain that came with the many years of whatever took place. I first of all, the first thing that I very intentionally did not want to bring with me was actually the hate,
the bitterness. It's like that's the point where you can decide either you become bitter and start to portray that, and I guess you went the other way, right?
Yeah, I chose to not see it as I chose to not bring the hate or any form of anger, but actually the healing, it was even harder in the area of fear, because the trauma caused a lot of fear and lack, and disbelief of oneself, disbelief of one's own power. That was the earliest part of healing that I needed to go through.
So you were actually able to draw on your own resources, or was there anything that really helped you to kind of heal and become what you are now?
It was a lot of, definitely I will say that the new world that I stepped into, the people that I'm surrounded by, from my partner to my family and the closest friends that I have, they are all very, very supportive. And because I'm in that supportive space that nurture my healing, it gives me more sense of security and peace to be able to let my adrenaline fade away, because what I brought with me was a lot of adrenal fatigue, in fact, that's built up over many years. And the cortisol and all that, chemically speaking, from the body, it carries with it a lot of all these chemicals that is what we call lack, fear, pain for that. So I'm able to gradually purge that out of my system by myself, because I am first and foremost in an environment where everyone around me is giving me that space to heal.
Okay.
Yeah, because they know that they will not deliberately trigger me. They know what pains I have. They know what kind of things can trigger me. Either I isolate myself from those people who do trigger me. So again, it's about alignment. When you are shifting towards what you want, you will align towards the people who will heal you more rather than those that will trigger you.
Okay, so that was the way, I mean, just for people who are maybe looking for hope right now. So it was your journey of alignment that helped you to transform.
Yes. The journey of alignment towards who I really am, what I really want.
Did you have any mentors, or you were like...
No.
Oh, so you were actually really able to go through that process by yourself?
I mean, yeah, I think I do not want to attribute that to just myself. Yes, I think yes.
There's a lot of inner resources.
But I choose to see it as the credit does largely goes to the fact that I have a very supportive partner at that point, and everyone around me, those that do understand what I'm going through, gives me the space to process what I have to process.
So you brought yourself in that environment.
It's true. I curate the environment.
Yeah. So
it's still to the extent, it's a two-way street. I curate environment, and for those people that I cannot be I can't get rid of. And they still do trigger me because maybe some of them are my family members. I actually went through a very deep healing process together with them. In a sense, me healing myself was healing them. And that's why there is this shared resources in a sense, like, because I just exited a very difficult phase of my life and I have to heal myself. But for the purpose of healing myself, I need the people around me to be of the correct frequency and alignment with me.
So would you say that since you managed to level up, I mean, your energy, your level of energy, that kind of also portrayed on all the other people around you? And because you said you also had some family members that you can't just shut out of your life, that you have to deal with.
Yeah.
So tell me a bit, how did you manage to transform them in the process?
Okay, so one such example is the relationship between me and my parents. And this is where the alchemy really happens, right? Imagine I'm a product of my childhood, mostly because of the way I'm being shaped and sculpted by the way my parents bring me up. So a lot of inner childhood and trauma was actually from having parents that did not they passed their own trauma onto me through the way they grew up, and then I grew up in a fashion where I became codependent, and then I entered into a relationship with my ex where I was abused and I was codependent, right? And so I was in that for like 16 long years. So when I finally exited at the age of 36, and in a sense, almost like the prodigal son returns, because I've been estranged from my family for so long due to that difficult relationship I had with my ex. When I finally ended it all and I returned to my family to reunite with my parents, the reunion was in person but not in heart.
Okay.
Right? Because I still carry it with me. In fact, at that age, I have an even deeper understanding of I became the way I became, like susceptible to abuse, susceptible to being manipulated, because I was brought up by my parents a certain way, right? So if I were to blame, if I were to point fingers and blame, I can very easily point to my dad and to my mom and say, you did this to me, you did that to me.
Right.
And that's why I'm the way I am. And that's why I went through all that. In fact, so when I returned and reunited with my parents, they were welcoming me, of course, because they haven't had me for so long. They kind of like lost me for so long. But being typical parents as they are, they still put blame on me, almost like victim shaming, victim blaming.
Okay.
And then they'll say to me like, oh, you are stupid for putting through with all that for so many years. And really like rubbing salt in the wound in a sense. And then that's when you see, most people at that point would probably be angrier than ever before, because they would be like, oh, you're victim blaming me. You did not understand that you're triggering me by not even realizing that I am the way I am because of what you did to me and all that.
But at that point, you were aware that was already good, right?
Precisely.
Yeah.
Most people, if they don't process,
Yeah.
they would have all that emotional baggage, and then they would throw it back at the people who caused them to be that way, which is the parents. Then that relationship will not heal. But because I wanted to apply more depth to my understanding of how I came to be that way, I realized that there is no point pointing fingers and throwing blame. So even though I might have every right to tell my mother,
I mean, you would have been also angry.
Yeah.
But
so when she very carelessly said to me, you're so silly, girl, you're 36 years old and it took you 16 long years to realize that this is a relationship you should have ended a long time ago. You wasted so many years. I decided to use compassion. And which is why I still tell you at the end of the day, a lot of the magic where you can dissipate hate, pain, suffering comes from the energy of compassion. the energy of compassion is so deeply healing and profound that it was on that very day I realized when you use compassion, you heal generations of pain.
Okay.
So, and sorry,
No, tell me more about it, because I think that's quite interesting that you actually had the strength to decide to go for compassion instead of getting angry at your dad.
yeah. So I actually switched. Actually, at that time, I was a divine intervention. The divine source might have come into me and channeled this energy to me and say, use compassion. You need compassion because your father did not know better. Like literally that just settled in me in a split second before the wrong word came out of my mouth. And I said to him, I said, look, I'm not blaming you, but it's been done. Things were the way they were. And that's why I was the way I was. But today I'm back. This is a moment to be happy, and I'm not trying to blame anyone. I just don't want to feel like I need to be blamed for sticking around that long to learn a lesson. Like, it's just like my way of saying to him, your words hurt me. Your words will hurt me, but if you have better perspectives, just like the way I have now, one day you realize you do not need to say these things to me.
So what happened then?
I think he was shocked.
Right.
I think he was shocked because he would never expect his daughter to say such things to him.
Right. Because it's out of character.
Out of character, and maybe also because he did not know me very well, he would think that just like any person in my space, it's almost like he knows that if you say something that is triggering me, the actual result of me being triggered is I would.
Exactly. That would have been the expected.
Exactly, right? Then I did not give him the anchor. I did not. I chose not to. So when compassion came into the room and that moment happened, I think the profound shift of energy actually shifted him. So in the gradual months and years to come, I saw a change in my father. He's actually now quite a different person.
Oh, really? Wow. So
Yeah,
just that little shift, like you reacted different.
yeah,
Made him react differently.
But because it's constant work, it's not just that one thing. That one thing started it. That one compassionate gesture started it. But not only did it start my deep healing, it also started his healing. And then gradually, because a person can always fall back to what they were, so he would, in his own way, say things that might be wrong. But then he would see that my behavior is actually one of like a wiser choice, a deeper, more compassionate. And in a sense, I'm setting an example for him.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
that's quite a powerful example how you can actually shift that kind of dynamic that is so ingrained
Exactly.
in the relationship.
And
Yeah, please.
if I might add, because I know that a lot of the audience might be thinking, but this is not while I can say that compassion is a deeply and strong energy to utilize in the work of healing oneself and your relationship with others. And I'm not saying that everybody should just go out there and spray love at everyone. Because sometimes some individuals, their learning process is much deeper. And in fact, they might even come from a place with more malicious intention towards you. So if you just being full on compassionate and like that, taking that person in, it might cause more repercussion to your own security and energy. So just a disclaimer, boundaries are still important. Yeah, boundaries are still important.
Okay.
Yeah.
One thing about your work that I would really like to understand better is, so you help people through their phase of awakening and ascension. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? I mean, how do people realize that they experience a phase of awakening, for example?
Okay, so for example, back to what we earlier on was talking about, how a soul would come back, do its thing, learn its one thing that it has to learn in this one life and things like that. So when a soul comes born into this world as a baby, as a child, first of all, the soul will go through a density that belongs truly to only Earth and the life on Earth. So that density is cutting out a lot of memories that the soul formerly has. And perhaps even skills, psychic ability and all that really gets dimmed down to very low so that you come in to be a human. As you come in, you are born, that human being, you grow up with the different things around you, from your people, your parents, your friends, your peers, to shaping you to the way that you become as a person growing up into an adult.
Okay.
So to say you might not be your truest self as you are growing up, even though your soul has truth of its own, your inner essence has its own purpose and desire, but these things becomes coated and covered by the many multiple layers of societal expectations,
Okay.
by conditioning.
So if I understand right, like, so let's say we come into this world and we have like a row of previous lives, and every time we should learn something else.
Yes.
Right. But as soon as we are born, there's like a veil, right? And so all those old memories are gone. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
we're not. That's why a lot of people we're not meant to know what we were in the past.
Why not?
Because you, first of all, as a human, your consciousness cannot, in this one density that we're in, we cannot contain and possess that much knowledge and memory of whatever accumulative memories we had in the past. It's too much to bear.
Okay.
Because you could have died a million times before.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to be born into this life witnessing and remembering all
So
that.
why aren't we born with at least like a selection of like the best of, or?
Because the experience of being born as a human, every bit and part of getting through this life in the most difficult fashion,
Okay.
is the meaning of life, is the thing that life is all about. Your soul has chosen to come into this life with no skills and knowledge or memories or whatever you had in the past, because if you do possess all that, you would be way too equipped to go through the test you're meant to go through.
Okay,
It's like
but you have to do it the hard way.
yeah,
right?
no cheat codes.
Okay, I see.
Basically, no cheat codes.
Okay.
Right? So, and not only do you have no cheat codes, the elements around you, right? Could be people, could be scenario, could be whatever, form and mold the way your character could become.
Okay.
Right? Also, that is part of what you wrote for yourself. It's like how difficult this test is meant to be in this lifetime. You write that test, actually.
Okay, so before you are born, you kind of write that, and then you have the test, like all your memory gets erased. You get into the world.
Yeah.
You have no idea of what happened before, but the setup is like the people you chose, the people,
Yeah,
right?
your family.
Okay.
The day you're born, right down to your family name, your name.
Okay.
What kind of siblings you might have or not have, what kind of people you meet in school, and then what kind of people you meet in your relationships later on.
Okay.
So on and so forth.
Okay, so that's written. And what is the test? Because you spoke about free will, so it can go either one way or the other, right?
Exactly. So very often, because we are born human, so the one thing that is random and not written is how you exercise your free will, especially when an individual gets older and older. The more they become aware that they have a free will that they can exercise, because it's the same thing like a child, a baby cannot exercise much of his own free will. It just gets fed, goes to sleep, all that stuff. But as you become older and older and more aware and conscious as a human being, you also can start exercising your free will. And thereby, when an individual exercises their free will, they are no longer coursing through what is their fate, which is pre-written.
So how do you know that? When do you realize that you can exercise your free will?
Well, I mean, then let me ask you back the question. Do you recall when you were a child, when was the first time you felt like you really made a choice that's just your choice and not because your parents said so?
Yeah, true. And then there comes a phase in your life when you are at work and you're like, oh, what am I doing here, right?
Yeah.
Like, isn't there something else to life?
That's exactly what I mean by free will. Very often, a child might not be making a choice for themselves, but rather it's being made for them. And therefore, they're not given the choice. And then as you get older, there are many, many times that individual would have been triggered to feel that maybe it's time to make a choice just for myself. But it often conflicts with all the other things that come, because that's where I talked about just now, the societal conditioning, right? If you are born in society, let's say in Chinese traditional setting like Asian society, more often than not, there's filial piety, there's all these things that you cannot break past because it is like expectations layered upon you. So this is where spiritual awakening kicks in.
Okay.
Your spirit, like I said, was like asleep, right? Because you're born without the awareness of your pre-stories. You're not born with the awareness of your inner power.
Yeah.
You're simply human. And then you come in living a life that's even created sort of for you, until you can have some sovereignty to some degree to say, okay, this is my choice. I want to take up a certain career or learn a certain thing so that I would be able to do something I love.
So that's the sign. That's when you start to wake up, when you realize, okay, I can actually make my own choice here.
Exactly.
Okay.
Or that inner feeling. What I usually tell people is, do you feel this inner feeling of like, I'm not happy with my status quo? If you start to feel this inner feeling that is constantly getting like triggering you on and off, on certain days, it might even be slightly depressive, that, hey, I'm actually not really doing what I like. I'm only doing it because mom said so, because dad said so, because they say this is the best career path, or this person I'm with, what if I actually don't feel that much love with that person anymore, but hey, we've been dating since 10 years ago. Sometimes they feel very, very torn because, like, again, societal expectation says, oh, you'll be a horrible person if you don't listen to what your parents say.
So you're on autopilot, basically.
Yeah.
You go through with that.
You will be poor if you don't strive harder and become a lawyer or a doctor.
Right.
You will be a failure if you do not work harder and get your promotion. You would be a horrible person if you break up with your partner whom you have known for the past 10 years.
That's
all
the stories we hear around us.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So a lot of time people cannot break out of that desire for their truth because societal expectation is the energy of societal expectations, which is very largely collective, is so dense and heavy. It weighs down on a person's sovereignty.
Right.
That's why I always talk about sovereignty. It's so important for an individual to realize that their soul, their will is truly free and truly sovereign if you exercise it. Only if you exercise it.
So how do you help people? Like, let's say people find out, okay, I'm experiencing that stage of awakening. How do you guide them through that? Because I can see that I can imagine there's still a lot of confusion, what to do with that knowledge and how to apply it. Where's that going, basically?
Okay, so there is no linear path for everyone. It's not the same. But if I were to lay it out in certain crucial steps, I would say more likely than not, a person, when they first come to me in the awakening, like let's say a person already felt for a degree of inner yearning to go in another direction. It's just that because of the societal pressure, they do not have enough strength and will of their own to follow, take that leap of faith and go where they want. As a coach, I will be there to first help them identify the truth of what they truly want, help them solidify and speak out loud and identify and align with that truth. So alignment is number one, right? Deep inner alignment. If a person said, I've actually been told that I should be a doctor, so in the entire academia path until career, they are working towards being a doctor. So many years have sunken into that work, including the hopes and dreams of the parents. And then at the age of, let's say, 35, this individual burned out and all that, said, I don't want to be a doctor. You know what? Then this is the point where I'll ask them, then what do you want to do? Because sometimes it's so obscure to them that they have never been given the space to think about what they want to be.
And not everybody reaches that stage.
Yeah.
Right? Some people go through life without ever, realizing that.
But
right?
the spark of awakening happens to this individual when they could even so much as verbalize, I actually don't want to do XYZ job. I've been put in that trajectory because it is not even my wish, it's someone else's wish. I'm simply, if they could verbalize this, if they could solidify this knowledge that means they have been awakened. The first, I like to say, the first bell that the universe has sent to you has rung. The first bell has rung for you.
Right. Oh, and there are several bells.
Yeah, yeah. In a sense, I call it alarm bells, right?
Right.
Like in your whole life, awakenings happen nonstop. And why is it that these awakenings come? It's called an awakening for a reason. It's like there's something about you that you have kept asleep, and you get awakened to the knowledge of it. Now that you awaken to the knowledge of it, what are you gonna do about it? That's the next step.
So that's like basically when your true life starts, like your real life. Would you say that?
Not necessarily.
Your aware life.
It's more like your awareness starts at that point.
Okay.
Right? But being aware is one thing, to do it is another thing, right? To have the strength to carry it through is another thing, which is why they would come to me, and then I would walk them through the process of like, okay, if this is what you want, truly align deeply to it. Now, after they align, the other thing they need is courage, strength, tenacity, will, all that stuff. But these things don't come naturally. There's a reason why they could not carry out the action on their own. So why? Because they have other things that are underlying their personality and character, such as trauma, pain, some form of grief, fear, usually coming from their hurt inner child, things that were levied upon them during their childhood, that could cause that individual to be in a state of limitation.
But on the other hand, it's also the challenges that get you to, like that you have to overcome and that make you understand your past.
Precisely.
Right?
So the only way for them to break past that limitation, to then truly step into that sovereignty, that phase is a phase where it's a lot of work. Actually, that's a very long phase, because this means that the person not only has to sort out the source of where that pain came from, they will have to either confront it or have that conversation deeply with the person and themselves regarding where this pain comes from and how it's kept within them. Then the next phase is truly going through a method of disciplined routines where they will cultivate and practice. This is all transmutation work. It's shadow work as well. That's why we call it shadow work. It's a very deep phase of like dredging up the dirt and trying to
the shadow in their
precisely identifying where the dirt is. Only through all this, then the person can become more elevated in terms of their energy. Now, the elevation of energy is very important, because that is where the next level, which is sovereignty, manifests in a form through the form of courage, pure will, and real tenacity of the soul. Then they can say, okay, I let go of whatever that no longer serves me. I am now headed towards a path that I truly am looking forward to. Like that strength, it has to be born out of their own embodiment of that transmutation.
Oh, that's super interesting. And can you maybe name one example of transformation like that you personally found like very inspiring?
You mean an example?
Your clients, yeah.
Okay, so I have one such client whereby actually it's not very far from the story I just told, that he was brought up in a construct where everybody in the family is a doctor.
Okay.
And he could not grow up saying he wants to be anything else. It's almost like the story is just written for him already. Like, you go study here, go do that, do this, and then be pushed into the direction of eventually becoming a doctor. Now, this individual obviously did not have the space during his youth to voice out his own interests and anything else that he would love to do, because it would be shameful. And it would be deemed frivolous and childish, especially when there is one sister and one brother who's already also walking the path towards being a doctor, right? So the pressure is really strong. And then by about 30, I think when he came to me, he was about 36, yeah? And also having a partner who is a doctor at that point, right? So he said he's starting to feel like he's not himself anymore. He's starting to feel a form of depression, in fact, whereby he says, rightfully being a doctor should be about saving lives and all that. And it's not that he doesn't care about lives, but he's starting to not see the meaning in his work.
Okay.
He's starting to not even, it's like in the beginning, he could psych himself. He could say that, oh, I'm going to be a doctor, I'm going to be saving lives.
Right.
It's deeply purposeful and meaningful. Like that's maybe what boosted his morale
Sure,
over the
sure.
years.
Because it is actually deeply meaningful.
Yes.
It's just probably not for him.
It's
right?
just not for him, right? And in fact, he used that narrative of how being a doctor is a very noble job. So he used that to push himself forward year on year, until, like I said, he's about 37, still pretty young for a doctor. But then he felt this deep inner I won't say resentment, but it's really like disassociative kind of feeling to the job, and in fact, the feeling of where is me? Who am I? Like what is he truly? Is his life all about just I become a doctor and then I just make lots and lots of money? Maybe I have a private practice one day and then one day I die.
Yeah.
I just die.
So he could not see himself on that path anymore. Okay.
He could not. He could not see like the glory, the nobility of being a doctor has worn off and faded. Like he could no longer use that narrative of a doctor being
himself and
to convince himself further.
So what happened to him
so when he came to me, he spoke about all this, which is why I began the work of helping him align more deeper with what he has ignored all his youth, or at least the way he's been made to ignore his true inclinations, such as like things that he loves to do, things that he loves to learn. Turns out he's actually a creative individual. He actually wants to learn more about creative arts.
Okay.
Not that full on be an artist or anything, but he actually wants to do work that has more to do with nature and arts. Yeah, and he's not actually a deeply academic individual. He's just like forced himself to do so.
Okay.
But if given the freedom and space to roam, he much prefer go into creative and nature related work. And then that's when I help him. But he has other things to work with, right? Because he has to work with breaking through the societal barriers and familial barriers with his own family and his own partner, in fact, who's also a doctor.
So that all played in. What happened to him now? Like, what did you identify with him? What's the best way for him to go?
Okay, so like I mentioned with you just now, there were the different phases I went through. I think altogether the work took about 2 years plus. Sometimes it would be moving faster. Sometimes it would be stagnated a little, because everything really is right down to the person's own constitution. Right, because then we have different seasons in our lives whereby our spiritual constitution is much stronger, sometimes a lot weaker due to maybe circumstances around us. But gradually he did come to a space whereby he realized he no longer has to worry what his parents would think of him, because he understands that everybody plays their own life in there. It's like you have sovereignty over what you do in this life. At the end of the day, nobody can point a gun at you and insist you go a certain direction if you do not wish to. The deep understanding of his free will was to the degree whereby he realized that expectations from parents and people around him is something he cannot control. But what he can control is his own trajectory of where he goes. If he is only going in a direction where everybody is moving him towards, then there is no him. He came to that realization and understanding.
Did he change his job? Is he like a artist in nature now, or
the last I connected with him, he wasn't fully dropping the job, but he took up something else that is to fuel his passion. And he did mention to me that maybe dropping the job as a doctor may not be something he can do immediately, because there is still things to pay for, all right?
Of course, it's
Life
so
goes on.
You do like small steps towards your.
But I think the experience that he had with me as the coach is that he came to realize that he has more power of his own life than he thinks, that he is not an individual who is just another cog in a machine here to live based on other people's expectations of him. And there is no such thing as living a life where you lie to yourself nonstop.
Right.
There is no life to live if you just live a lie. Because eventually, like I say, the universe will keep ringing the bell at you and say, wake up, wake up, wake up, which was what happened for him. So with that said, he has a bit more outlook towards the future, whereby he might retire from being a doctor earlier and take that money and go do something else.
So awareness is huge. So once you have awareness, you can actually take the first steps towards your authentic life.
Awareness is very big, but if I could give an example, you know the movie The Matrix?
Yeah.
There is a blue pill or the red pill.
Yeah.
It is like Neo first gets waken up by Morpheus and he still wasn't fully out of the Matrix, but he's being offered blue pill or red pill. That is the awareness phase.
Yeah.
It's like I show you now, there is the Matrix which you were in. Not as beautiful as you thought, but they crafted a story for you, which you probably are comfortable with. But there is the actual reality. Might not be the easiest path, but it still is the real reality. Which one do you want? I think this is what awakening in the early phase looks like to a lot of people, of course, in our world. If a person feels very comfortable, or maybe just not uncomfortable enough to jump out of the matrix, they will still take the blue pill and go back. But some individuals, maybe they felt more compelled to go for the red pill, even though the path ahead might be tough.
Yeah.
So this is all very minute down to the person's own, again, like I said, will and constitution. It really is very, very subjective.
Right.
Yeah. In fact, some people, they very, very would love to just go back into the matrix and stay there. Like they legit just want to stay in that state because the pain, the difficulty, the idea of having to struggle.
Known. It's what they know and it's what they're familiar with. So is it right to say you are your clients are the ones who decided to take the red pill?
Yeah,
right?
by the time they come to me,
it's the red.
they mostly, it's like in a sense, it's like I am their Morpheus. Yeah. And I'm just saying, okay, it's gonna get better. Trust me. It's not so bad. But I will put them through the training of stepping into the real version of themselves and then like harnessing their power. And then that's where Ascension comes in, when they become fully awakened in their power. And Ascension in many ways is like so it's discipleship at that point, right? In a former case, I would say it's more like I'm coaching individuals.
Ascension is like coming up to the higher level of your...
Yes.
Like you have in your life the choice to go this path or this path, and Ascension is like when you actually level up, basically.
Ascension is very deliberately leveling up with knowledge of the oneself's own capabilities.
Right.
At that point, I would say Ascension even includes for a lot of people how they want to provide service to the community. Very often it comes from that place.
So what would you say, I mean, what is the benefit of taking the red pill instead of the blue pill?
Actually, there is no, okay, I'm a very, I am at the point where I would say I observe. I observe what's going on and there is just no biasness because every soul did genuinely write their own life here. And it's not up to me to say what's right or wrong for them.
So it's not like if you choose the blue pill, your path of ascension is not as fast? Or...
Perhaps if a person chooses a blue pill, which is to go back to sleep in the matrix and continue that life, they might not go through a phase of ascension in this lifetime. But that's not to say that this lifetime is wasted or nothing has happened. It's just that that individual chooses to go back deeper into the loop of learning rather than the loop of realization and ascension. The loop of learning can be very long for some. For some, they can have several years of simply deep learning life. It can be very painful and suffering if you were to perceive it from the story life of a person. And they might even die not knowing very well about their spiritual aspect of themselves. Perhaps even holding grudges or resentments or sadness. But that's not to say that life is a wasted life.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, because learning still occurred.
Okay.
Yeah.
I always thought, like we should always strive to be our true, authentic self, no matter what.
Yes, I would.
Sometimes quality of life can mean taking the blue pill.
Again, like I said, there is no right or wrong. It's choice.
Okay.
It really is choice. And everybody has a way to make that choice.
Okay.
Yeah. Therefore, this there's no judgment in this space. There's no judgment in the entirety of the conscious energy. Every soul, if every soul comes into this lifetime being awakened, we are already at a very different state of an era. There will come a day perhaps, but it's not now. At this point, there still is a very fair share of number of people and souls who are going through the non-awakened, non-ascended phase. Yeah, and it's okay because it simply is the movement. I mean, we might not have the time to discuss this today because this actually is very tied to the concept and understanding of time-space.
It's super complex. And I heard we are actually entering this stage of consciousness now. That means like more and more people awaken way faster than happened in the past. And that's going to be a trend. And I think that's super interesting. And I think I could talk like another 5-6 hours with you, but I think we should start wrapping this up. So I would like to ask you one question that I'm asking every guest. Like, just imagine there's like everybody's tuning into your frequency, the whole world. Like, there's a huge loudspeaker that speaks to everyone. It can be anonymous, it doesn't need to be your face, but is there something that you would like to say, like you have like 5 to 10 seconds that everybody should know, like your truth?
Oh, I'm greedy. There's so much I want to say.
I'm sure.
I'm greedy.
Okay, so what would you recommend everyone?
Yeah, actually, it's if you want to suffer less, be present, enjoy what you have. Don't hold on to everything so dearly. And if you need one energy to take you through, it's always compassion.
Oh, wow. I love that.
That's how I would summarize it.
Thank you so much. Well, thanks for sharing your wisdom with us so generously. And so where can people find you, like on Instagram?
Yes. So you can find me on Instagram. I am The Multi Realms on Instagram. Even my website is themultirealms.com.
Okay.
That's where you can find me. And I guess, and I have my YouTube channel, also The Multi Realms.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, but people can reach you through those channels if they have
yes.
any question. And, I'm sure there will be a lot of questions because it's a very different material, very different topic than we usually discuss. And it's just so much depth to it, which we did not manage to cover this time. But I think we got a good overview and, people understand what you're doing and the essence of your work. So thank you for that again.
Thank you.
And thanks for watching and listening. I hope you enjoyed the episode and look forward to see you next time.